We were tipped off about a problem with YouTube initially shared by Markiplier, a YouTuber with 22 million subscribers. In a video on Markiplier's channel called YouTube is Broken and Here's Why, Markiplier explains everything. He says that the reason for the YouTube shutdown is likely Google+. YouTube hasn't said anything about how the crash happened even now, and it's been more than a week. Could it be that Google doesn't want to admit that YouTube is broken? That's what Markiplier thinks, and honestly it would explain a lot. Hey there, you're watching InformOverload, I'm Charlotte Dobre, and smash that subscribe for daily news updates you actually want to hear about. And if you don't follow us on social media, check out the description for all our links. Alright, so this video will be a ranty video where I complain about YouTube, which are honestly my favorite YouTube videos. At the end of the day, we can all come together over our collective distaste for YouTube. We still don't know what caused YouTube to break. And that's crazy because YouTube has never had a problem like this before. There would be little issues that would cause the site to crash for no longer than a few minutes at a time, but an entire 90 minutes? That was unheard of until last week. Well, Markiplier says that he thinks he knows why the YouTube shutdown happened, and it has a lot to do with the shutdown of Google+. So here's the deal. In 2014, Google made it mandatory for creators to create a Google+ account. Google+ is essentially Google's attempt at creating competition with Facebook. It was created in June of 2011 and it was supposed to be this huge social network. When you created a Google account, Google created a Google+ account for you, unless you specifically specified not to and actually made sure that you opted out of that option. But if you wanted to create an account that allowed you to comment on YouTube, you needed to make a Google+ account. So most people had them. But that doesn't mean that people would actually use Google+ as a social network. Google has reported that Google+ has a low usage and engagement rate, and 90% of all Google+ user sessions last less than 5 seconds. You basically just go on Google+ to check a notification, and then you close it. So to top everything off, unless you carefully turned it off, Google+ would display the comments you had made on YouTube on your Google+ profile. I mean, I don't have a problem with this, but not everyone wants to display their negative comments for the world to see. Right before the big YouTube crash that happened last week, it was announced that Google+ was going to be shut down because of privacy leaks. Google came forward to admit that a bug exposed the personal information of up to 500,000 Google+ users. This was actually discovered back in March of 2018, but Google didn't say anything about it until October of 2018. Basically what happened was a flaw in the programming allowed 438 external apps to access users' names, email addresses, occupations, gender, and age without authorization. Google says that there's no evidence to suggest that anyone's information was misused, so I guess you can rest easy. I don't know about that. So in about 10 months, they are shutting down Google+ completely. But they tried to change the code on Tuesday, and that's what caused YouTube to crash. Now they reverted the change and they're trying to figure out what happened, but that doesn't change the fact that now YouTube is basically broken right now. Because they shut down Google+, YouTube is being affected. Over the last few days, channels are experiencing a 30 to 40% dip in initial viewers and prolonged viewers, and that's because people just aren't getting their notifications for videos. People have actually been complaining in the comment section of this channel that they aren't getting their notifications, and I guess this is why. Which, honestly, I'm kind of relieved. I have actually noticed a dip in initial viewers and I thought it was me. I'm damn, I'm not picking good stories, the thumbnails suck, people hate me, but it's nice to know that it's not all my fault. Maybe 30% my fault. Is that fair? Is that a fair estimate? I don't know. They changed the code on Google+, and that caused YouTube to crash because of so much of YouTube is integrated into Google+. Once the code was changed, that caused a huge problem with YouTube. People aren't getting notifications on Google+ when YouTubers upload their videos, which is how so many people found out when their favorite creators upload a video. And there's a lot of things going on in the back end for creators in the Creator Studio as well. Some things just aren't working right now. But that's not even the biggest problem here. To sum it up, Markiplier said that YouTube just doesn't care about its creators, and this is proof. They don't care about their creators because they rely on code and algorithm instead. And now that the code and algorithm doesn't work, creators are suffering. Until YouTube puts a system in place that gives benefits to creators, it's going to continue. And the fact that YouTube isn't saying anything about this is also a problem, considering the fact that YouTube creators are supposed to be partners. Without us, they don't make money. How do they get advertisers to put ads on videos if there's no videos to put the ads on? And they still don't let us know when stuff like this happens. Anyways guys, that is all I have to say about that. It is time to respond to some comments on our video Crazy Black Teen Says She's White. If you haven't seen this video, check it out by clicking the link at the top of the screen. Marco said, this girl in Whoa Vicky should make a mixtape. That would be fire. Throw in some features. I mean, I would not mind that. I feel like I like Wovicky a little bit more than this girl though. I feel like a collab between the two of them is like, Wovicky's just like stooping a little bit. Arekas the Potato said, watching in my bathroom. Very exciting. What you doing in there, huh? Nathaniel said, is Charlotte white or is she a potato? I might have potato skin, but I am white on the inside. Wagwan Pifting Man said, I think I woke up on the wrong planet. I say this every friggin' day. Why you smiling when your neck said, Charlotte, do a high kick? The video is over and thanks for watching. Over here is a link to another IO video so you can keep watching this channel. And if you are a fan of this video, leave a like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so I can see you in the next IO video.